again, this is why I think it's ignorance, right? Because you would ask them, well, why do you post this as an HR director? Because you really don't need a director.
Oh, because we want to get more candidates.
And say it so casually. No, don't do that. Like, now you're attracting HR directors. You want to pay them as generalists. You want to function them as generalists. Meanwhile, they're expecting to be an HR director. Always put that salary too low. When they put that job up there as an HR director and they don't need an HR director, child, let salary be for the bird. Otherwise, you're going to be having this glorious title and you're going to be hating the job. Okay, all right. Particularly in HR, you don't need that in any job. You don't need manager or director to be successful. You have to create what success looks like for you. Hey y'all, this is Timeka, the face behind Heyyy HR. I come to you with 10 years of human resources experience, and actually over. I started my education 13 years ago. And so I've worked in HR, eat and breathe it for the last 10 years. And I also come to you with the highest level HR certification, which is the SHRM Senior Certified Professional Certification. I also come to you with a double master's degree, one in Master's of Business Administration, so MBA, as well as Human Resources Development. I got Human Resources Development and Human Resources Management, but I'd be a little feeling some type of way to tell y'all I got 3 degrees. But I went through all of that just to tell y'all that there's some things I wish I had known before becoming an HR director. When I first started my career as an HR assistant, I literally wrote out a sheet of paper. I wrote that all the job titles that I wanted, and I didn't put in the salaries on each one. I just knew that by the time I got to HR director, I wanted to be making 6 figures. I wanted to make a minimum of $100,000 per year. And I definitely wanted to have that job title of HR director. I didn't have much else besides that, just a list of the jobs I wanted to do without that time. But the last thing that I put is that I wanted to do all of this by the time I was 40. I thank the Lord so much, because before I became 40, I've hit 6 figures and I've worked as an HR director. And there's just some things I wish I had thought about before I became an HR director. And so now you're looking at a human resources business partner for a global tech company. If you want to know what I wish I had known before I became an HR director, then definitely keep watching. So the first thing I wish I had known was that small companies don't always equal great culture. I have worked for small companies so much in my career. So my first job as an HR assistant, we had about 250 employees. And then I went to another company and we had about 350. We'd fluctuate during the summertime because we hired a bunch of summer positions. And then I went to a company where I got there and we had like maybe 30 employees. And by the time I left, I didn't stay there too long, but within that year, it grew from 30 employees to about 105 employees, and we had a ton of contractors. And it was a national company, and I just noticed that working for these small companies, and these companies, I thought, okay, they're all under 1,000, so they're all small. They're all under 500, so they're even smaller. And so later in my career, now I won't go through, I worked for another company, I had about 120, and I've done consulting for companies that were super small as well. And then I went to take on this role as an HR director, and they had about 40 employees that were full-time employees. I had a lot of contractors and a lot of like part-time folks or what have you like that. But their full-time employees was about 40 employees. And I just thought this is going to make me have such a great culture. Like, I'm going to love it. We are like a family. Don't y'all listen to people when they talk about families? But I was so excited about that. And then I realized that these small companies are so small, they have not really understood how important it is to give the employee satisfaction just like the company is receiving. So many times, and I feel like it's just like ignorance, like a lack of knowledge. Like, I feel like if they were educated, they would know. But I noticed that the smaller you are, the less they value their employees. I mean, and when I say small, I'm talking about 50 employees to like 500 employees. Now, when you get under 50, listen, it's 50-50. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know if you're getting a real family that really gonna look out for you, or you getting like people that are crazy. So when I say small, I'm talking about 50 to 500 employees, and even under 1,000 is small, but 50 to 500, right? And I just don't feel like they understand the importance of like giving back to the employees more than just a paycheck. It's not all about just giving them a paycheck. They got a job. They should be happy. Like, employees deserve to get more back as well. That can include so many different things. Like, I just talked about it in my employee relations video where I compared employee relations and labor relations. And that's just a part of what employees kind of expect and how you can see if you're making them happy. great. Another thing is they just all do not understand that HR budgets really work and they're necessary. I worked for a company that did not have an HR budget, but understood the value that HR would need certain things. And so when I needed certain things, it was nothing for me to get it. I didn't have a company credit card. They thought about it later. I feel like I got one later, but anything I requested, I was able to get because I wasn't requesting anything that was crazy, right? And then I worked for a company that had absolutely no HR budget, and that blew my mind. I'm like, the bulk of your money is HR because you're paying for employees, you're paying for benefits, you're paying for insurances that cover your employees. So some people include that in the HR budget, which makes it super duper big. But at minimum, like employees, you should have HR be able to give back to employees for like employee recognition. Maybe they're planning like a Christmas party. Maybe they're going to plan different things to give back to employees. That's all I'm gonna say. Blows my mind that they don't give an HR budget. HR should have a budget as well. Even if I have a small budget, I should have a budget. I'm gonna need supplies. Like, anyhow, I'm gonna need software. Like, okay, I stopped. Another thing with these small companies is they still learning communication techniques. And so it could be tricky with them because one day they love you, next day they hate you. They go and do all of this talking in these closed door environments and then come back to you and don't say nothing about the fact that they just talked about you for at least 6 out of the 8 hours for the day. And so that's another bad thing that I really did not like because it made for a bad culture with with various small companies. And then they have a hard time understanding the big picture, like understanding that, okay, this is probably going to cost us a good grip to do some recruiting right now, but we're going to get some amazing candidates. So yeah, I'm not going to just post it on my website and interview these 5 people that applied. Yes, I'm going to pay some money to Indeed or maybe LinkedIn. LinkedIn is expensive for smaller companies, but I'm going to go out there and find these colleges that have these $50 job boards where I can post a job or whatever. Like they just do not understand that big picture is if I pay this money up front, I have a higher chance of getting better employees who's going to stay longer, who's really going to be passionate about the work, who's really going to do really, really well. All right, y'all. So that was the first thing. I just had to let y'all know that these small companies do not mean great culture. So don't take this job as HR director thinking, oh, it's good. I can really learn in here. They don't know how to teach you. Matter of fact, I might be talking about something else I got on the list. But they don't know how to teach you. You got to go in there knowing. So I'm going to go into the next thing. I wish this is a thing I had learned or know before I became an HR director is that companies would post a job as an HR director just to attract candidates. You get there and you acting like an HR generalist, HR coordinator, HR assistant. You ain't even an HR director. Whew. Again, this is why I think it's ignorance, right? Because you would ask them, well, why do you post this as an HR director? Because you really don't need a director.
Oh, because we want to get more candidates.
And say it so casually. No, don't do that. Like now you're attracting HR directors. You want to pay them as generalists. You want to function them as generalists. Meanwhile, they're expecting to be an HR director. So most times they don't know how to defend even what HR looks like. They do not know how HR fits into their organization. So many times that they put the job posting as an HR director just to attract a candidate, they do not realize that, okay, we want to really do some comp analysis with internal and external factors to see, are we being competitive with our salary? We don't want you to just come up with a number out the back of your ass. We really want you to listen when employees are having issues and not just think, oh, okay, well, she always got an issue. No, she probably always got an issue because she's being battered at home, right? Like I talked about in my domestic violence video. Like it's so many different things that could be going on. And a lot of times when they hire people to just attract candidates, they don't let them function as the HR director who would really dig into those issues to fix them and get past them and increase productivity, which increase the revenue that the company generates. And then they just always put that salary too low. When they put that job up there as an HR director and they don't need an HR director, child, that salary be for the bird. When I became an HR director, because I was an interim HR director first and then I became an HR director at a whole different company. And I was okay with the salary because I had not worked in 6 months, but it's sad that I walked in knowing I wasn't going to stay because HR directors just don't get paid there. Mind you, even if they thought that's where HR directors get paid, right? Remember, my career strategy was for me to be an HR director at 6 figures by the time I'm 40. I worked in my late 30s. I wasn't at 6 figures. So it was more about me. And you have to make it selfish. Like otherwise you're going to be having this glorious title and you're going to be hating the job. Okay. All right. Now let's get to my third and final point. My third point is you don't need the title director or manager to be successful. You just don't. You just don't. If you're on my email list, you already heard this. I'm sorry. I'm giving it to you again. because I know I went into a deep dive on my email list. But just having that title, manager or director, doesn't mean a big thing. I know that it's a big thing primarily for those who work in sales sometimes, or like nuances of jobs, particularly in HR. You don't need that in any job. You don't need manager or director to be successful. You have to create what success looks like for you and what you really want to attain, what makes you feel really good inside. Some people can be an HR generalist for the rest of their life and be happy doing it. So many people are. So many people are HR coordinators and retire as an HR coordinator. They're happy doing that. You have to figure out what you feel success is for you. What defines success for you? I must admit, for me, I was a little bit on the vain side. So success for me was having this big title, having this corner office with all of my diplomas on the wall, having 6 figures. And I wanted to do it by the time I was 40 so I can enjoy that money before I got too old to not do anything with it. And not even just enjoy the money. Like, I wanted to do normal things that people do. I wanted to go on vacations. I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to be able to maintain my car. Like, I wanted to do normal things. And so you have to really think about what success looks like for you. Don't let a title make you feel like you're being successful or that you've achieved success. Success is what you want it to be. Success isn't what people think it should be for you. It's what you want it to be, what makes you feel good. I will tell you that all right, I was about to go through my 3 points, but I already finished them all. Like, see, I go hard on that one because so many times people think, but I just want to be a manager. And then you're like, why? And they struggle with saying why. Like, it's because you thought that you had to be a manager or a director to be successful. You just don't. You don't. There's so many people who aren't managers or directors that make 6 figures. So if you're like, because I want to make more money. No, you can make more money. You have to do other things to make more money instead of just looking for a title, because the title don't always mean that's what you get into. And so if y'all really want to know like some other feelings of what I feel about HR. Matter of fact, not some other feelings. If y'all really want to know some things not to do when you become an HR director, right? Say,
Timeka, I hear you, but I still want to be HR director.
I got you. I feel you. Do your thing. If you want to know what not to do in order to be a good HR director, because this will make you in demand, this will help them see that you're valuable, and most companies will pay you more money, then definitely look at this video I did. It's called HR Directors Suck. And it talks about the things that you have to make sure not to do so that you don't suck. And you got to check it out. So I'm going to link it in the description box. You might really want to check it out if you really want to be successful. And if you want to make sure like, well, Timeka, I want to be an HR director, or I want to be a manager or a director because I really don't want a low salary, then I already did a blog so you can see what type of salary you should be looking for. And so I'm going to put the link to that blog in there, and you guys really dive in because I go through and tell you how to define your minimum and your maximum salary. It is full of links. I have them embedded in my original blog, but people are having a hard time finding them. So I'm just putting it in one blog so y'all can sit down and help make your salary for yourself. Like, listen, sis going hard on that one. So really dive in, get into it, and get this money and be happy as an HR director, manager, business partner, journalist, coordinator, whatever it is that you want to do, because you do not have to be a manager or director in order to be, successful. Ah, boy, y'all got me passionate on this one. So listen, for those of you who are new, we all know I dropped some gems on this video. Let's not play with it. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the like button. Because if you made it all the way here, this video hitting on some stuff. For those of you who are returning, check out the blog. Put in the comments, Timeka. I'm going to check out the blog. Appreciate y'all. I don't mind a little purple hearts too. All right. Can't wait to see y'all in the next video.